calendar for most of the week, to be honest. Like I kept a couple like light meetings, but no, I was intentional about that. This is the first year,
Good.
literally, because I mean, like, because I don't, because I've always worked globally. Like, when I went into business with myself, like, I would attract folks globally. So, like, there were times where it was U.S. holidays, and like I'm meeting with people in Ireland, and of course, most of my staff is in Colombia, and so they're not. It may not be a holiday for them. And so I'm still, conducting business, but this year, like I said, I'm more intentional around like creating those breaks for myself.
Good. I'm glad. I will say I'm gonna stop real quick, real quick. Lord, mixing up my words. Real quick, I do want to say if anyone would like to come up, first of all, thank you guys for joining us on a Friday and especially a day after a holiday. So kudos to y'all for coming in and giving up some of your time to listen to us. But I do want to say and invite you guys to come on up if you would like to. We're just kind of talking about things that we've noticed over the past 6 months and what we see the next 6 months being like and things that we're implementing and honestly just chit chatting. So like if you want to come up, join what went well the last couple of months or what didn't go well, what you're changing, all that good stuff. We would love to hear from you. And so I have anything to add before we just keep moving on?
No, no.
Okay.
Thank you to everyone for joining us, for sure. And definitely, if you guys want to come up on the platform and speak or add to the conversation, please do so.
I know, so not just hearing me rambling on about stuff too. God, there was something else I wanted to say. So for the next 6 months, I'll say fall always seems to be like a really peak season for me, just because like I'm transitioning from excuse me, transitioning from spring and stuff. Like things kind of calm down in the summertime, which is honestly on purpose. I don't really care to work that much during the summer months, especially got my young kids home for the most part. So the fall is definitely like another peak season of everything. And just based on what we were talking about, like how people seem to be like they want to step back or make sure they have more passive income and all that good stuff, I was wondering, how do you feel like things are going on your end, like with your clientele, or even just like people like surrounded you, or maybe you watch or like not newsletters, articles that you read. Like, what do you think is going to happen over the next 6 months?
With you talking about with the economy?
The economy, or just like work ethic, all that good stuff. Like, do you think it's going to slow down any, or do you think they're just going to be continue being a little bit more picky,
With Okay, so
more
let's
hiring? Huh?
let's chunk it out, right? So work ethic, I think that I think there's a decline, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for several reasons. Some of it is people are overworked because several companies have gone through restructurings. And so what that does is the work doesn't go away per se. They have to just
Right.
make the work fit within their budget. So one of the ways that they go about that is to have folks pick up more work. So like, folks literally will pick up another job or two. So there's some folks that are doing the two or three jobs. And that's why,
Right.
as we kind of laugh or joke around like the quiet vacation and then things like that, that's why folks are being bolder and taking these actions or feel entitled to be able to do them because they feel like the company is disrespecting them, so they don't mind disrespecting the company or taking back what they feel like is owed of them, right, of their time. And so I think that it's twofold. I think that companies need to really evaluate and look at their company culture and the culture that they want to build in that company. And I think there is an opportunity for many companies to bring respect of their employees back into the workplace because I think some of that has been lost with the focus on the financials. So again, so I think some folks are in that world are disenchanted. Um, and starting to maybe
Yeah.
slack off a little or pull back a little bit. Um, with regards to, again, like the overall economy, like one, we're in a political year. And so
Yeah.
there's always going to be impacts and implications to the economy. It's confusing for a lot of folks because, again, depending on what side of the aisle you're on, the messaging that's out there. And a lot of folks I've talked to especially earlier in the year, like I would be in rooms where maybe I'm the only HR person, like representing,
Hmm.
and they'd ask Clonetta, "What's your take on, the job market?" And the way that I've coined it is, I felt like it was the tale of two job markets, right? Because you'll hear from the small business owners, like the local mom and pops, that maybe are paying $20 an hour or less. They
Yeah.
complain that they can't find enough people to work. They're still struggling to recruit and to hire. But then, you'll be in these different various Facebook groups or on LinkedIn, and people are sharing their heart wrenching stories of how they've been out of work for 6 months or more. And they're
Hmm.
just, again, they're not getting calls for interviews. They don't know what they're going to do. Unfortunately, it's pushing a lot of folks prematurely into quote unquote consulting or, starting businesses for themselves when they're just
Yeah.
not ready. But so again, I think that it's twofold depending on what, you know like just kind of where you are. But definitely for the more professional jobs that require like the degrees, there's been a shift. And I don't think that we've experienced a shift like that in this country, and that's why it's like it's been so heart-wrenching, for folks and hard
Yeah.
for them to grapple with. And for most folks, if they've thrown their all into these companies, they haven't been building other revenue generating streams of income on the side. Like, so that's all that they had, right, to fall back on. And so it's going to be interesting just to see what happens with this economy. I will tell you, like certain, like with business owners, I am seeing the same. Like especially like with consulting, some folks are really struggling to build that clientele. With my
Hmm.
core close knit group of individuals, that hasn't been our story, you know. And so, I've actually seen where we have been able to experience growth and momentum in our businesses. And so, some of the struggle has been with being able to have discernment of who to connect yourself or your businesses with. And
Yeah.
I've done a lot. I was intentional this year. Like around the third week of January, I had a member of my team. We were intentional with our LinkedIn outreach. We wanted to increase our reach here on LinkedIn. So even sometimes, like initially, like you're not even corresponding with me. She's managing all of that, reaching out and corresponding with folks, getting them on my calendar, and we're meeting, adding folks as referral partners and what have you. And so, I'd get on these calls, and I've actually had to shift in that space for the second half of the year because people are becoming more desperate and operating from that
Hmm.
scarcity mindset. And almost like, it almost like I don't. It's draining for me, right? As an introvert, I almost like, well, you need to hire me, or you need to just add me, to your project. Like that's kind of the way they may not say those
Yeah.
words outright, but that's the whole like vibe of the call, you know. And
Yeah, it's awful.
no, it is. I mean, and it'd be different if they really had, like great package offerings or something that is. There's been times I've met with people and it's been a great connection, but again, like their vibe is different. They're not operating from that scarcity mindset. Like, and there's times where I've gotten off calls and I'm like, oh, this is a really great person, and there's synergies there. Like, I got invited from a whim. Like, somebody, again, one of my folks reached out to through our campaign that we were doing with network, here on LinkedIn, and it lent itself to me being invited. There's a group that I joined that it was once monthly, but now I think it's 2 weeks out of the month. A group of individuals that meet up in Silicon Valley, and they started to have these couple virtual meetings per month where they focus on like AI technology, and those have been phenomenal. Like the folks that I've been able to network with, and we sit around and just talk about like what some of the possibilities might be and how we're integrating the AI technology, into our organizations
Yeah.
and businesses. And we even work on like small projects together to like help increase our skill set, right? And so I never would have, had the opportunity to join forces with this group had it not been for that chance meeting. But the person that I met with, like, she already was ahead of me. She had had enough of these calls where people just clamoring, trying to attach themselves, right? So our calls wasn't
Mhm.
even on Zoom. Like, she asked, can we just meet over the phone? And we just connected. So, like, we were just on the same vibe, same mindset. She's highly successful. Most of her, she does coaching. Most of her clientele actually is with Japanese companies. So she's constantly flying back and forth between California and Japan. Like, she goes and stays, for some months over there. And she has built over the years like a core clientele, right? So she's not necessarily out here chasing, her next gig per se.
Yeah.
And again, when you don't have that stress and that pressure on you, again, you're able to operate differently, and you're able to show up in the world differently when you're meeting and engaging with folks. And but I started to get drained, and so I literally have cut my meetings down to 15 minutes because I was meeting on average 20 new people a week. and
Yeah,
um,
that's a lot.
and of those, maybe two or so might have been like great, energizing conversations, but the others, like, I would usually leave depleted and just drained. And it's true, they say pay attention to how you feel, like when you're interacting with folks, because that'll let you know if that's a space you need to continue to be in.
Right. Man, that's good. Like, I don't think it kind of goes back to like the networking piece too. Like, I don't think people realize too how our network or who we surround ourselves really does play a role in how things work. Because I'll say, like, even for myself, like once I started like aligning myself with people with the same mindset that I had and are trying to go like pretty much at the same levels I am, I started attracting more like the clientele that I wanted, and also to the referral partners I wanted. Like, I didn't feel like they were trying to fast talk me or feel like doing all this other stuff. Like, it was just like, oh, you do this, I'm trying to do this too. Cool, let's
Yeah.
do it together.
And I think even like it lends itself to, like, I don't know if we share like how we haven't met in person ever yet. We need to
No, we
connect
haven't.
and stuff.
It's
But
funny.
we met through TikTok. And honestly, someone else that I met online who I love, I don't know if she's on LinkedIn as much, but she has a huge following on YouTube, on IG, and she has been a blessing to my business. Like, she does business coaching. I think she kind of, again, because it's a different time in entrepreneurship. I think she kind of closed her calendar with accepting new people for the business coaching. But her name is Kimberly, but she's known on her platforms. You guys can look her up as CEO Drive Her, and
Yeah, she's
um,
awesome.
and she really like got me ingrained early on, like with the AI technology, right, and prompt engineering and things like that. Because again, even with this group of Silicon Valley folks who, like your Stanford grads and things like that, like, I'm a lot more advanced and knowledgeable, so I'm teaching them things like that I've been doing, and how I've been able to integrate or use like the AI technology like in my business. And so so follow her if you guys can. But she sent me one of your videos because we'd met a few times. She got to know me, kind of what I do, and there was something in one of your videos that she was like, "Oh, this is good, content, or there's good synergies here." And then I think we ended up corresponding again in the DMs on TikTok, and
Yeah.
ended up meeting. And like I said, you will just know, like, you will begin to build your tribe of like-minded people that are on the same trajectory, and who are intentional about their businesses, but also have good morals, have a good moral compass, like, and integrity. And that's important to me as well.
And it's funny, just to add on, like, brief of that. I don't even think I met Kimberly even like on video calls. And I was like, awesome that she even like introduced us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So, what are some changes? Because I know I've talked about a few, like definitely with the networking, right? And kind of
Mhm.
minimizing the time. Like, so I've cut down to 15-minute networking meetings versus 30 minutes. Something I learned through the networking, like I use Calendly a lot for
Yeah.
all the different aspects of my businesses. I have a separate Calendly link set up for various things. So I have one specific for networking, and in it I have in big letters no pitch zone. Right, this is networking, right? So
Yeah.
my meetings were 30 minutes, and oftentimes they would run over, you know, but I'm trying to stick close to those. But like I've mentioned, I recently have actually shifted them down to 15-minute increments, and I have closed down certain days. So I've only allotted certain days of the week for
Good.
those types of meetings. And so I think that's going to help me out tremendously. And then I figure in the 15 minutes, like I'll know if there's synergies there, if there's someone that I can actually, connect with and we can be beneficial to each other. And then we can have follow up, more in depth conversations.
That's exactly. I have mine formatted too. And I'll even say, like, for myself, when I'm doing moving forward, I'm probably only going to cut it down to probably only doing like on the first or third week. Because, like, for me, I can't work when I know I have a call hanging over my head. And like I was talking about this earlier too, like not earlier, but a couple of weeks ago, like because I have ADHD, and I was like, whenever I know I have something coming up, like I literally cannot function well until it's done. So like I'm like, all right, I need space to work and things. So I was like, first and third, like bring down the weeks when I actually want to take calls, and outside like client calls, like if it's a client call, like
Hmm.
I work that in. But even then, they have particular days they have to follow, and like I just sent it over like a weekly overview. But anyway, like breaking that down even more, so like being even more intentional with my time, and also too like making sure like my kids' schedule line up, because like I remember you mentioned this, and I think last episode, I don't remember, but like the work life integration, because that's how I operate too. So like whatever their schedule is, I just tweak my schedule to match theirs and kind of like make sure it works well. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, I have to change up some things and take some stuff off so I can actually do the work and actually do really well with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'm over here smiling because I'm thinking about these millennials. I guess maybe that's what they're doing, right? Because, like years ago, I dropped that whole work life balance nonsense. And I would
Yeah,
teach my teams or, like the teams I supported, like, stop striving for that because you're never going to achieve it. And you're only going to
right.
frustrate yourself, especially if you're like, again, in that company corporate space and trying to move up the ladder. Again, there's some I we even had like shout out to my one of my old bosses who again she's still in that space and she's a force to be reckoned with. But we even had a presentation like letting people know because there's a fallacy there, right? People say they want to be a leader. They say they want to be
Mm,
successful, but do you really? Like do you understand what it takes to be in those positions? And so we even had a presentation like highlighting this is what it takes to be here. So are you sure this is really what you want? Because if you want to be an executive in this corporate space, if you're working for a global company, you're going to travel. There was a point I was traveling every week. One of the companies, I won't say their name, but some people may know, especially if they've engaged or worked for them, the acronym of the company name, they even joked that it meant I travel willingly. So if you know the company, you know who I'm talking about. But honey, when I tell you, like I was traveling every week, and I mean like, you know, to a different side of the country, over to
yeah,
Mexico, another country, and stuff like that. But then having to tweak because of you know concerns with me getting kidnapped and what have you. Like we had to do workarounds. I had to fly into one city and stay there. And then they set me up to have a driver that would come pick me up every morning and drive me across the border. And I had to work there for the day, and then he'd pick me up in the evening to drive me back across the border. Mind you, coming across that border, like on the way home, like there's times we literally would be sitting in the car parked, like in line to cross the border for like 2 or 3 hours, right? And so that stuff is like draining, and in the end
yeah,
it's hard to like maintain a family life in those scenarios or situations. And so you have to be clear about what it is that you want. Like even with entrepreneurship, the first few years, you are like you're gonna, if you're complaining about a 40-hour work week, then entrepreneurship might not be for you. Because that first few years, while you're the only person in your organization and you're getting things set up and having to learn and learn about yourself and do the self development, you're going to work more than 40 hours a week if you want to see
Yeah,
some success. And once you get things going, like, which is kind of where I am like now, is streamlining, automating, processes and things, where now I'm able to pull back like my physical, touch from every aspect of the business. But um, yeah, like I'm telling you, you're going to work harder for yourself than you ever will anyone else. But the reward in it is usually, if you do go into entrepreneurship, there's greater significance behind it. Like your why is greater than the
mm-hmm.
obstacles that you have to go over or grow through. And so, and it feels good. Hopefully you feel good, or you're in the wrong business and on the wrong track with the initiatives and goals that you're working toward. But yeah, that first few years, you are
Yeah.
going to, like, again, like, if you're, and it's good to find people, if you're just starting out, that aren't just always faking it, right? That can tell you, like, I have, like, locally, I've joined some groups and really and met some really good people that I consider friends now, that, again, we were just talking because you might think they have it all together. And, like, I remember hearing the one for the first time, Sharon, she was like, shit, she was like, it's sometimes I'm sitting, like, in our office suite, and I'm wondering, are we going to make rent this month? you know? Like, those are the
Right.
realities of, business and entrepreneurship, right? Understanding it won't always be that way. And and I don't think it's that way for her today, because this was like last year, and it's been phenomenal to see her grow and to see her business grow. But she's put in the work, like, the networking, going to all the different events. And again, for her business is more local based, so she does need to be out there and be in people's faces. And now I'm starting to see her engage in her workforce and her staff, so that it's
Mm-hmm.
not always her having to run and go to this event, or her running to go and have a booth at this, you know,
Yeah.
festival or what have you. And so I see the growth. And but again, that first few years, it's gonna be you. It's gonna be you, unless you just have some exorbitant budget. And most of us are funding our own. Most of us are funding our own businesses, right? And depending on the type of business you go into, like if you have a brick and mortar, yeah, you need to probably go get quote unquote funding. You need to go get a loan, but a loan with interest that you have to pay back. And because I like to talk in real
Yeah.
terms, people again in this entrepreneur space, they talk about, oh, let's get you funding. No, it's a loan, baby. It's a loan with interest rates that you have to pay back. Like, it's
Yeah.
that. Like, that's what it is. But like if you're in the consulting space, like, I didn't. I guess I have run into some people because they've tried to ask me a question like, "Oh, did you take out a loan?" I didn't really realize people were doing that. Like, that's scary to me. But yeah, there's some people that are doing that. But you know, you got to make good on those commitments that you've made.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the route that you choose to go into. But definitely, like the first few years, you are going to be in that hustle mode, but you don't want to stay in hustle mode forever. Like, it's not realistic, and it can be detrimental to your health.
Yeah. Man, this is good.
Yeah,
And
I'm telling you, it's, like, I just like real people. I like authentic, genuine people that are integral.
as it should be. But
Yeah.
I will say we got about 5 minutes or so left. I don't know if anyone wants to come up and share anything that you noticed or what you're working on, anything along those lines. But while that's happening, I'll say, Claire, do you have anything coming up that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I will say, like, just this trend, like you were talking about, like work ethic and stuff, and as I was talking about companies restoring um, trust back into their employees and their culture, definitely if you guys want to talk about that more, reach out to me, or if you see someone struggling in that area, because you might work with them on a different capacity. And again, like I get folks that reach out to me because maybe they're an accountant or CPA, but they see the red flags and they're like, oh, they're in danger zone with their people issues, and so they'll connect me to help some of their clients and things like that. Definitely reach out there. I will tell you, because of my role of being in HR, and I see we have Hannah. Thank you for joining us. I used to work with Hannah in a corporation in HR years and years and years ago. But and I'm sure you probably get this too because people know you're in HR. Like I've had an uptick of people reaching out like, "Hey, can I talk to you? I'm having this issue at work." Now, my business is supporting the businesses. Um, but again, like I still kind of try to help them and give my opinion. But I just want to throw out there, there's a company that is doing a lot of great work. They actually have, it's a hotline, it's an 800 hotline, 877 HR Help You, where employees can call. So just like the business has somebody to call to advise them on what they should be doing, this organization, it has like a monthly subscriptions where folks can call and they can talk through like some of the issues that they might be facing at work. Like, hey, for the last few months, I feel like my manager has been, on me and, is trying to make it look like I'm not doing my job. Like, what are my rights? What is it that I can do? And so check them out. They're 877-hrhelpyou.com. They're on TikTok and IG. I'm not sure if they're on Facebook or what have you. But that's a resource for individuals that may be still in that work environment, but feeling like I don't know if I'm getting treated fairly, or I've realized that this isn't the right place for me. There's another one young lady that I think I'll talk with you offline, Adriana, but I think we should reach out to her. I think she would be great to have, visit us. She has an YouTube channel, and she is a former HR person that has left the corporate space. And it appears her channel focuses on giving good content to help individuals navigate the employee space. So she works a little bit opposite from what I do. But I've been intrigued by her videos and by just the great content that she's been putting out there. But definitely, anytime you have where there's a tightening of the economy and organizations are having to like tighten their budgets, which all are, right? Again, from that vantage point of understanding, like with capital budgets, because of the inflation and interest rates, it costs more to borrow money. So
Yeah.
if you have projects, like I've talked to folks, still in the automotive space that they had projects that were due to start this year. Those projects have been pushed off to 2027.
Jeez.
And that's because, like, when you think about the cost of, like, let's say they were going to expand one of their plant locations and they were going to move the production of a product from one location to another, they have to get capital budget. The way that they get the capital budget is by way of getting loans. And so they're subject to interest rates based upon their rating for the company rating. And again, we know that across the board in this country, inflation has driven up interest rates. So that means it costs more to borrow money. And when you're borrowing millions of dollars, like you have a capital budget of $30 million that you need to pour into this project because you need to not only buy the land, you need to buy like the machinery and equipment, and then you have to have the dollars for the payroll, right, to be able to staff up, those new locations. It adds up. And so some companies, some of these large organizations are beginning to put off projects, right? And,
Yeah.
they're tightening their belts and things like that. I'm not as close to it to know if they're doing some of the things that I used to have to do in the past, as a leader in organizations where, we'd start to implement no travel policies, only, essential travel. Like, I mean, I've been in companies where we're tightening the budget so Like we're even controlling the thermostat, right? Because we're trying to be creative. And from my vantage point as HR was to find ways that we could free up money and resources without having to always go to cutting staff, right? So
Yeah.
what are some other creative ways that we can do? Now I haven't gotten as bad as I had a cousin that was working for a company for whom they were getting so tight, they actually did not allow them to turn on the lights in the building. They were told to use the light from their computer monitors.
Oh wow.
So that was pretty tight. But but you know, I think that again, like, going back to your earlier conversation around, like, where the economy and stuff is, like, those are the cues, like, those are the clues to look for as you're talking to people and finding out, like, what are some of the things that your company is experiencing. When you start seeing like little changes like that, it's because those organizations are trying to free up cash, like they need cash on hand, and all those things are important. They all play into each other. Like I said about that interest rate and stuff. Like even you'll see with vendors, like they'll have longer payout periods. Um, where maybe they'll put people on 90-day or 6-month payout periods. And again, all of those things are intentional. And like I said, sometimes if you don't get behind certain doors and veils, like you don't even have this in your wheelhouse or you haven't had exposure to it. But those are important, especially for like companies that report on the Nasdaq, and S&P on the stock market, because that factors into like the overall health evaluation of the company. How much is their debt versus their revenue? How much cash do they have on hand? They evaluate like what capital projects they have upcoming and things like that to assess a rating for that company. And those of us that do trade, that are investors and things like, that's why earnings reports are so important for us, and earning days to get on. And anyone can join those calls. Like, you get on those calls and you begin to listen to like you know the things that the company's planning, and so you get insight into like, okay, are they expanding or are they starting to make cuts? And that might give you kind of an inclination on how you want to invest in that company, or if you want to. And if you trade, like, you can make money on either end. You can make money as the stock is going up, or you can place a trade to make money as the stock is going down. And so, so again, just kind of begin to like keep your ears open and begin to train yourself to listen differently beyond what is being shared on the surface, so that you will have a true viewpoint of what is happening in this economy and the industries that you actually work with. So, especially if you're a business owner and entrepreneur, you can position yourself to be able to be in a good place for success, to benefit, again, whether it's going up or whether it's going down.
That was really helpful. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, guys. We are at time. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us. The only other thing I want to add too, if anyone wants to discuss business processes, I have the Process Lounge coming up Tuesday. So if anyone wants to check that out, you can click my profile and scroll down. I think it's to the featured section, and I have a link to that, so you'll learn more about that. But in the meantime, we will be back in a couple of weeks with another episode, and I will update what that is soon. And otherwise, y'all have an amazing Friday.
And can you share real quick, Adriana, the Spotify, so folks that maybe
Oh
missed.
yes.
Yep. If you want to catch late episodes, of course, Lamborghini_C on YouTube. I have my YouTube channel. I've been sharing them there. But we also have our episodes located on Spotify.
Yeah, I'll make sure I put that in my feature section too. Probably sometime. It'll be soon.
Okay.
Or you can just DM us and we'll send you the direct link to that too, if you ever want to catch up on some other episodes. All right. Thank you for saying that. I almost forgot that. I got to make note to make sure I include that in probably the blurb as well.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend. I am going to enjoy mine and get ready to hit the ground running Monday.
I feel that. Ooh, let me hit the wrong button. All right, y'all have a great Friday.
All right, bye.
Bye.